I thought that there are a lot of people who take golf cliches and apply them to life lessons, but I think you could derive financial lessons. So I'm curious, what can we learn about our finances from golf sayings? And so you pick some and I pick some, and maybe we can just bounce back and forth here, do a little volleying of these. But can you tell me what you picked as a golf
Yeah, let
saying
me
and how it
get the
applies to
list up
finances
here.
for us?
I'll start with one here. So the golf saying is short putts never go in. So the saying that I've heard is never up, never in. And so you can even, if you play golf, like never leave a birdie putt short, never up, never in. And what I was thinking that the financial lesson was from that is sometimes we get in the way of ourselves. Oftentimes we get in the way of ourselves. And I was thinking about this in the vein of savings, right? Like so many people, we all know that saving money is usually a pretty good thing. I mean, just a blanket statement, I think everyone could to some level agree to that statement. And yet, if you've looked recently at American savings rates, they're low again. I mean, the only reason that they went up was because there was a lot of government stimulus and I mean, I'm talking macroeconomics here. So how come we don't save more? And it's because in a lot of ways because we get in our own way. We see that money in the checking account and then we go and spend that money because it's available. And so to me the financial lesson here is automating your savings and that will help you to make more putts, right? You're going to actually get the job done. You're going to get it over the hurdle. And so some things that I've done, I've set up savings goals in our digital banking app. I've linked the savings goal to a specific savings account, and then I'm automating the savings in there. So I've actually gone into a couple of levels there. I'm visually seeing my progress. I've named the goal and I've actually automated the savings to make sure that it's happening like every single month. The money's going in there. And I'll be honest, I got caught last year thinking that I was going to be making more putts and have enough money available, if you will, for a big purchase I had to make. It was actually a payment, an insurance payment I had to make. And all of a sudden I got the bill and it was for a full year of an insurance premium and I barely had the money to be honest. And so I realized, wow, I really like actually have to put the money away into a separate account to make sure that it's there next year because it's just stuff happens during the year. And so I automated it all. I got myself out of the way. And so that's now hitting the putt far enough. I'm actually getting it there. I'm taking myself out of the equation using technology to my advantage.
Yeah, never up, never in. You're never going to have the money for
Right.
that emergency if you never put the money away. So, yeah, great one, great one. Here's one. I think a lot of people, even non-golfers, will have heard of it if you saw the movie Tin Cup. Grip it and rip it. And in golf, this is basically saying that just take your driver, get a good grip on it, and swing away at the ball. And it's just stop thinking about it because I think in golf, you can overthink it. You can get all these lessons about where's your weight and do you have your wrist cocked and are you keeping your eye on the ball? And so there's a million things that are going on in a golf swing and you can outthink yourself on it. And I think it's the same way in financial decision making. That to your point, if I say I want to save some money so that I have something put away in case I lose my job or we have an unexpected trip we have to take. And if I sit down and I say, first of all, I've got to go through all the budget line items and figure out what I can adjust. And then I've got to figure out what account to set up and then like what are the connectors and when am I going to do those transfers and how am I going to remind myself and make sure that the money's there. And I want to find something that has a good interest rate. You could probably take any financial decision and create 100-step process to do it and never do it. And the reality is most of these things just need you to execute at the most basic level. A lot of people will say, I haven't set up my 401k yet because I'm not sure exactly what percentage of my income I can contribute to it, or I'm not really sure how the match works, or whatever it might be. There's a million different things. And the reality is just turn it on, do 1%. I mean, it's better to do that than to sit around and contemplate all the time or be paralyzed by the analysis on it. So that's what I liked about grip and rip
Yeah,
it.
that's a
Stop
good one.
overthinking
That's really
about
good.
it. Just do it. Just execute.
Overcomplicating is not usually good for most things in life. So another one that I thought was an interesting one was minimizing the big miss. So that this is actually something I've been trying to do, to be honest, in my own golf game. So when I'm on a hole, it's called course management. It's basically looking at the golf hole and I'm not hitting it straight every time. So looking where, like if it's a tee shot, like analyze what's out there, and if there's a big pond, hit away from the pond. Put it in a spot where it might be in the rough, but it's not going to go in the pond. It's still playable. If it goes in the pond, I got to take a penalty stroke. So to me, then the concept of kind of protecting yourself from the big miss is insurance. The importance of having kind of insurance and cushion. So basic insurance would be self-insurance of a emergency account, making sure you've got a cushion there, just a chunk of money that you can tap if you really need it when the unexpected happens. You're minimizing a big miss. But even more than beyond that or bigger than that is really having the right insurance policies in place. So life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, a lot of these things are likely provided to you through your employer. So make sure you look at those. And it's a great thing to talk with a financial coach or a financial advisor about just to get some help calculating, because it can be a quick decision, which can be good, but I think it's better to really calculate what you actually need so you're not overbuying insurance either. Most people, though, underbuy. Let's just be honest here. Most people underbuy insurance and they could use a little more coverage. But what you're doing there is you're offloading the risk, right? So if something really significant happens, like you get injured on the job and you're injured for a really long time and you can't work your normal job, you have protected yourself against the big miss of that happening. You've given yourself a chunk of income. Life insurance, if something terrible happens to somebody in your family, you've protected yourself. If they're a main income provider, like you're protecting yourself against the big miss. So that is a very important concept, I think, to carry over into our financial lives, and would be something to, again, consult a trusted person about to help you navigate that. But you've got a lot of those right at your fingertips through your employer.
Great one. Even as someone who's golfed a while, I wasn't always really clear what that meant. So that is very helpful on a couple of levels. I agree with you. The next one I picked was play the course, not your opponent. And this is one, like you said, is one I struggle with. When I'm playing with someone and they're much better than me, I tend to want to try to play as well as I can because they're out driving me, they're hitting more accurate shots, they're out putting me. And so sometimes I just start swinging away, trying to match what they're doing. And always that turns into a problem. I never get better by overexerting myself. I only get worse, which then frustrates me even further. And the reality is, golf is your game. I'm not playing in a tournament where it's either him or me getting some big cash prize at the end of the day. My goal is to have a good time, improve myself, and whether I'm playing with someone or not, I should just be focused on my own game. And I think this is very clearly a keeping up with the Joneses mentality that I think plagues so many people, right? You see someone pulling in with a new car, and what you don't see in that neighborhood is whether they paid for it in cash or they financed it over years. You can see people taking nice vacations, but you have no idea if they have mountains of debt or they are flush with cash. People who are staying at home because they look like paupers, but you don't know that maybe they have an incredible savings rate and money put aside for retirement. We just don't know. And the reality is trying to figure that out is a fool's errand in many ways. The only thing we have to do is figure out, are we doing what's appropriate for ourselves? Do I feel comfortable with my path? Am I on the journey and on pace to achieve what I want? Maybe for some people that's retirement. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's to have a nice family vacation next year, or to buy a new car, or to put your kids in school, or to have a spouse stay home from work, or whatever it might be. There's limitless things. But the more we continue to measure ourselves by our neighbors, other people, macro averages, whatever it might be, I think the harder it makes it
really
for us to do what's right for ourselves.
The external view of somebody it's just so hard to tell what's actually really going on. It all looks great. Like, look at how many trips are going on. Look at look at the lifestyle, but it could be just super stressful on the inside to navigate that kind of life. So good point there. Another one I picked was take your medicine. And this is a little bit like minimizing the big miss. And I'll just be straight up honest. I struggle with this one on the golf course. When I hit a bad shot, what this means is you hit the ball out of play. And I'll tell you, most pros say what you should always do is just hit it back into play. And so that sometimes might mean literally turning sideways from where the hole is and just hitting it out back into the fairway. But what most of us do is we get our gambler hat on and we go, oh, there's a small little 3-foot window between those two trees. I can see the pin. I think I can do it. I think I can do it. It's worth it because I'm already out of position, so I've got to make up ground. And then we nail the tree, and then we get more out of position, and then we waste another shot, and we waste another. And so you balloon to a large number on the hole. And so there's a couple of different ways, I think, financially that you could connect this one. And I would just go with correcting financial mistakes that have happened in your past. Let's just go with like your credit report. It's so easy to just ignore what's happening or what did happen and just go, that's in the past. I know it's a bad mark on my credit. I'm just not going to deal with it. I'm not going to face it. And not even just credit, but other financial decisions, right? Like maybe you took out a huge loan for something and now you wish, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And taking your medicine means actually facing what's going on. And that, for most people, is the biggest hurdle that they never get over. And I just told you, it's super hard to do it on the golf course. It's super hard to do it in life too, because we don't talk about money. We don't like talking about our money problems. And there's some shame that comes with that. And there's a lot of feelings that can come with that. But I can tell you, as a coach who's worked with people, if you can overcome that hurdle, you can talk with a trusted person. It doesn't have to just be a coach like me, but it can be a family member, a friend. It just has to be somebody where you open up about that. That is massive progress. Even if you haven't done anything else, just facing what's going on and being willing to get some help with it is huge. And that can help you avoid massive mistakes or massive problems down the road. If you just think about like your credit report, if there was like a mistake that you could clear up, let's just say partially your mistake and partially like a retailer's mistake on a retail card or something, maybe you could clear it up with the help of somebody that knows what they're doing, and your credit score could explode from there in a good way, right? It could become way higher, you get better loan rates, better everything down the road, but you're just not willing to face it. And so now you're going to try to navigate and you still have to get the loan or still have to get the job or whatever, and you don't get the best rate, so you end up paying more. And so it just exponentially grows your sort of negative cost to your life or negative cost on the score on the whole. So it's a really tough one to live by. I'll be honest. It's very helpful to have an accountability partner, whoever that is, along the journey to even remind you in the moment to do it. But it's a very important one that I think more people need to consider.
Love it. Take your medicine. Own up to when you make mistakes and tackle them. I agree. That's a hard one for me too. It's easy to make excuses that it wasn't my fault. So it's hard to get things fixed if you're not going to own up to it. So I agree with you. Another one I picked here is ignore the hazard. Sometimes people say don't focus on the hazard. And it gets me because we were on this tee box and there was just water in front of the tee box, maybe 20 or 30 yards. You're never going to hit into it. It doesn't matter at all. But my buddy tees up, puts the ball in the water. And I said to him, isn't it funny how just having water there just draws your eye in, and it's normally never something you're going to hit. And it's because it's there, because you've thought about it, you're drawn to it. And I teed up and I put the ball in the water as well. And we just laughed about it because I had just gotten on my soapbox about it. And it's so true that sometimes there are these things that are completely irrelevant to us, and yet we fixate on them. And when we fixate on them, we tend to maneuver there, even subconsciously. And so I thought that this applies to our finance because are we sometimes a glass half empty kind of person? Maybe we're struggling financially. There have been times when I have just been stressed out of my mind about finances. When is this money coming? I've got this money supposed to be coming in, but I've got this bill that's overdue or whatever it is, right? And we just look at the reasons why it's not working. And, oh, it's because these people are late to pay, or because the system is bad, or I'm not getting what I deserve. And then it's easy to say, hey, that's just how it is. And I'm not looking for solutions because I'm focused on the problems. And so I'm wallowing in the problems. But most of the time, like you said, especially if I can get some professional help, someone that knows how to get out of this situation, instead of focusing on the solution, who are some of the people that I know that might be able to help me, or what professional resources do I have, say, through my employer's financial wellness program, or my bank, or my financial institution, credit union, whoever, to get me out of this? Because if we're focusing on that, you're probably going to lead yourself to the solution. And yet, a lot of times, we just lead ourselves back into the problem. And often, like me, repeat the problem. Repeat the problem that I just pointed out to my friend.
Cannot make a distinction between there's a pond there, or even saying don't hit into the pond. It just, there's a pond. No matter if you say I'm not thinking about it, or like I'm trying to ignore it, but it's like it fixates on that. And so that's funny that happened, but totally good analogy too of how we think about our money. Last one for me that I was thinking about is the more I practice, the luckier I get. Arnold Palmer said that one. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, but basically practicing the right things over time can make it seem like you're getting luckier in the game of golf because it's such a hard sport. But you're actually just getting better because you've practiced the shots. You're not necessarily getting lucky. But there's kind of a little joke in that saying, I guess, that maybe people around you think that you're getting lucky. And in finances, most of us are not going to win the lottery. Most of us are not going to get a big inheritance. We're not going to get a bunch of money just given to us that just solves all of our problems. I would argue you got to have some good behaviors for that to actually solve problems, but you're not going to get lucky in that way. Sometimes the most successful people financially are just the most surprising people. You would just never guess that person retired at the age of 50, or that person retired with that kind of money, or that could live that kind of retirement lifestyle, or could pay for that car in cash. You're just so surprised at times, but they have just been doing a lot of good things for a long time, and practice makes perfect. So if you are just living below your means and then putting that money into a savings account, it's not really rocket science. It's really tough to do because there's so many temptations out there on keeping up with the Joneses, like you said earlier, Peter. But this is something that, again, as you look from an outside perspective, it's like, wow, that person's so lucky. Look at what they've been able to do. And they might just be feeling like this was just basic math. Like, I just saved more, I didn't spend as much, and now I can do these bigger things, or whatever it is, or giving away more money. I mean, because they've got so much money, they're able to just give a lot of it away. So whatever it is, there are healthy behaviors, and that's what our program's all about, is teaching those healthy behaviors so that you can really go out and flourish in life. And so whether it's working with a group like us or working with somebody else, I think it's important to hone those things over time, because it's a lifelong sport, just like golf is. Finance is a lifelong sport. Sometimes things are going to go really well for a long time, but then something will happen, and now you're back to square one on something, and you've got to figure it out again. But maybe the baseline of your skill set is up a little higher now because you've done some of those things for a long period of time.